In this video, we will be discussing integers. Integers are all negative and positive whole numbers. So up until 6th grade, we think about numbers as only being positive, our counting numbers. With all the way back to preschool when we learn about 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what we think about when we think about numbers. Integers are all negative and positive numbers, whole numbers. So on a number line, we are used to, prior to 6th grade, seeing 0, 1, 2, and numbers gradually get bigger as they move towards the right. Now, that is still the case. To the right, the numbers are getting bigger, and these are all positive numbers. After 0, all to the right are positive numbers, and as you move more to the right, the numbers are getting larger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the left of 0, these numbers are negative and they are getting smaller. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And this becomes a hard concept to understand, in that the larger the negative number, which sounds crazy to say, but the bigger this negative is, the smaller the value. And you have to think about it as if somebody takes $5 from you, you now have less than you did if they only took $1 from you. So as we move more left on the number line, those values are getting smaller. The more negative it is, the smaller the value is. So now we're going to talk about, I have plotted a point on this number line. This point is at 3. If I were looking for the opposite of 3, the opposite is the exact same spot, but on the opposite side of the number line, on the opposite side of 0, and it has the same distance from 0. So the opposite of 3 is -3. And in that same way, the opposite of -3 is +3. They're opposite of each other. If I took this number line and I folded it at 0, they would align perfectly with each other. Let's talk about integers in some real world examples. So integers are very useful when we're talking about values of things. So if I said below sea level, that would be a negative. So for example, 3 feet below sea level would be -3. If I said above sea level, that is the opposite, and that's positive. Above sea level is positive. So if I said 3 feet above sea level, that is just 3. We do not put a plus sign for positive numbers. If there is no negative sign, it can be assumed that that number is positive. Another example is a withdrawal from a bank account. If I withdraw $8, that's -8. But if I deposit $8, that is a +8. Another example is below 0, above 0, a loss or a gain. So when we're thinking about negative in the real world, we're thinking about anything that shows some sort of loss or something that is below 0, that is less than 0. Integers can also be ordered. So when we think about ordering numbers, we've been doing that for a very long time, but you can also order negative numbers and positive. You can order a set of integers. So here's my set of integers. And I need to order them from small to big. So I first need to separate them by their negatives. So I'm going to circle all of the negative numbers because those are going to be my smallest values. And then I'm going to look for the smallest of those. So -9 is the smallest of these negative numbers, because remember, the more negative you get, the smaller the value. So -9. then -8, then -3, then -2. Now I can focus on my positive numbers, and that's really simple. So one thing I like to think about is if I'm separating it, if there was a 0 here, it's not there, but I almost imagine that there's a 0, an invisible 0, that is separating the negatives from the positives. So for my positives, I can go in order, 1, 3, and 4. I can also just compare two values. So no matter what the negative number, a negative is always smaller than a positive. So -100 being compared to 1, 1 is bigger. A negative is always going to be smaller than a positive, no matter the value of it. I can also compare two negative numbers, -3 and -10. We like to automatically think 10's bigger, but it's negative. And remember, the more negative the number, the smaller the number is. So -3 is larger than -10. Another concept that we have to cover when it comes to integers are absolute value. So we can be given a number, and we need to find the absolute value of it. Absolute value is just a number, an integer's distance from 0. How far away from 0 is it? The negative or positive doesn't matter. So on a number line, the distance -3 is from 0 is 3. 1, 2, 3. It's 3 away. So the absolute value of -3, an absolute value, is shown as these two lines. The absolute value of -3 is just 3, because it's 3 away from 0. So there's another number that has the same absolute value, the opposite. The opposite of -3 is going to have the same absolute value as it. They share it, because 3 is also 3 spots away from 0. It's just in the other direction. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. We can compare absolute values of numbers. So if I was comparing the absolute value of -23 and the absolute value of -27, well, if I took the absolute values off, -27 is smaller. But with the absolute values, -27 is further from 0 than -23 is. So the absolute value of -27 is 27, and the absolute value of -23 is 23. 27 is further away, making the absolute value bigger than the absolute value of -23. So as a quick recap, we have integers. On a number, integers are all whole numbers, negative and positives. On a number line, the negative integers can be found to the left of 0, and the positive integers can be found to the right. All positive integers are larger than all negative integers. All negative integers are less than 0, and all positive integers are greater than 0. We see integers in real life scenarios when we're talking about sea level, temperature, money being withdrawn or deposited out of a bank account, a gain or a loss. We also have opposites. So we have the opposite of -2 is +2. They are on the opposite side of the number line, but the same distance from 0. The opposite of -1 is +1. You can have opposites not with integers. The opposite of 1/2 is -1/2. Those are referred when we start to be referred to rational numbers. We also have absolute values of a number, and this is just their distance from 0. Opposite numbers share the same absolute value. That ends our video. That concludes our topic of integers.